Hi everyone, so this is going to be my review for the latest Starship Troopers film, Traitor of Mars, which is the second in the CGI animated series, following up Starship Troopers Invasion. So as many of you may or may not know, this is the 20th anniversary of Starship Troopers this year, and this film was kind of put together as a passion project by Ed Neumeyer and Casper Van Dien, who returns to the role of Johnny Rico in this film, along with Dina Meyer, who returns to voice Dizzy Flores. So the plot of this movie is that Rico is being stationed on Mars with an entirely new squad of troopers that he's training to see if they'll make the cut to the mobile infantry, because a lot of them are just kind of farmers and people that have lived on Mars, don't have any combat experience, and they're kind of getting all this stuff for the first time. You see different simulations with them in virtual reality and stuff, fighting against the bugs, and that's kind of how we're introduced to their characters. And there's a general plot that basically a bug invasion happens on Mars, and since it's been isolated from the rest of the Federation because of like a revolt, and there's this political thing going on, and then there's this big reveal later on, the whole villain's plot, which is why the film is called Traitor of Mars. I won't reveal that here, but it definitely plays into this whole conspiracy behind the planet. Essentially, the characters that are marooned on Mars, including Rico, he has to band together this group of newbies to defend the planet, and that's where the story goes. As for the characters in this film, we have a bunch of new people, and really the only relatable characters or iconic people are Rico and Dizzy, who appears towards the midway of the film, and she has a big spoiler too, which I don't want to reveal in this video because we're keeping it spoiler free. But as for the characters itself, just really quickly, I felt that there were a lot of generic stuff, stereotypes and kind of caricatures and people that you couldn't really relate to because they were just so like goofy and like dumb, silly characters that ultimately weren't all that interesting, and I was kind of disappointed in that regard because it seems like that's one of the biggest flaws of these new animated films, or really I guess all of the films past the first one in 97, which is that they keep introducing a whole new cast of characters that are just not relatable or interesting. And that was what made the first film so endearing, is that you really do learn about the main sort of cast of characters, which are Carl, Carmen, Dizzy, Rico, and Ace. You really learn about these characters, you grow with them throughout the story, and you get to see how they progress as characters, whereas in these recent movies and sequels, you really don't get that. They're just kind of throwaways. They're there to serve as cannon fodder for the bugs. Now, speaking of the bugs, in this movie we only get warriors and plasmas, which was very disappointing because you have so much mythology that's been introduced in this universe up until this point. Why would you not introduce other bugs or even new bugs? You could create stuff that's new, that's never been seen before in the series. Like, you could have introduced bug variants from Roughneck Starship Troopers Chronicles, because the bugs in that series only appeared in that series and they've never been utilized past that, which could have been a great opportunity to bring them back. Now, my next point, I'm going to talk about what worked in this movie. The things that worked were Casper Van Dien as Rico and the action, and I'm not joking, that was really all that worked for me. The plot was kind of nonsensical when you get down to it, but I really did enjoy hearing Casper back in the role, and especially the scenes where he interacted with Dina Meyer, who was playing Dizzy again, because they just had such a great kind of rapport between them, and you really felt like it was kind of like old buddies reuniting. Now, the stuff that didn't work in the movie, like I mentioned, the plot and some of the CGI at times was kind of wonky, and the characters were very flat and one-dimensional. With all the negatives that I've talked about this movie, you might be thinking I hated it, and I didn't. I thought it was actually a pretty fun, enjoyable ride overall. I just felt that it was kind of underwhelming, and it wasn't as good as it could have been and should have been, because this is the film meant to celebrate 20 years of this franchise. Why didn't they put more effort into it? Why didn't they make it better? And just take more time with it, They could have really spent more time working on the script and getting it to a place where it was actually enjoyable and interesting, which ultimately this film just isn't. So overall, if you're a fan of the franchise and you like all these movies, you liked Invasion and everything, then definitely check this out because it's going to be a fun ride. And I'm going to be giving this movie a 6.5 out of 10 just objectively as a film. It did have a lot of flaws with it, but there was stuff that redeemed it for me, and ultimately I didn't find myself like, oh man, I just can't wait for this movie to end. I was like, this movie isn't great, but I'm having a good time watching it. It just isn't as great as I was hoping it would be. So leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you guys get a chance to check out Traitor of Mars, and what did you think of it overall? As always, thank you for watching, and for more on the Starship Troopers universe, subscribe to Hybrid Network.